Men, let me tell you something shocking. Women will never openly admit this, but there are certain traits in men that melt their hearts instantly. They won't confess it, they might even deny it, but deep inside, these are the things they crave in a man. And if you master them, you'll stand out from every other guy she has ever known. When a woman observes a man, she doesn't only look at how he dresses, how tall he is, or what car he drives. What strikes her the most is how he responds when life throws unexpected challenges at him. Emotional control is not about suppressing feelings, it's about mastering them. Imagine a situation where everything is falling apart. Your business fails, your car breaks down, your plans collapse. Most men panic, they shout, they show frustration, but a man who carries himself with composure, who breathes through the chaos without losing his grip, that man instantly becomes unforgettable in a woman's eyes. Women admire strength, but the strength that comes from calmness has a unique power. When you react with stability, it signals that you are not shaken by temporary storms. You are bigger than your problems. And that kind of emotional depth creates silent respect in her heart. Women will never openly tell you this, but they constantly test how much control you have over yourself. Sometimes it's intentional, sometimes it's unconscious. She might throw a sharp comment at you, disagree with you, or push you emotionally just to see if you will lose your balance. If you collapse, if you shout back, if you become overly reactive, she sees weakness. But if you hold yourself steady, if you respond with calm authority instead of anger, you prove something far greater, that you are a man who cannot be shaken easily. And that is extremely attractive because women seek security not just in physical protection, but in emotional stability. A man who loses himself to anger, jealousy, or constant frustration feels unsafe. But a man who can keep his emotions in check even when provoked creates a natural aura of safety around him. Think about it. Everyone can look good in good times. When life is smooth, anyone can act composed. But it's when life challenges you, when everything seems against you, that your true character is revealed. A woman is silently watching how you carry yourself in those moments. If you lose your mind every time you face difficulty, she cannot trust you with her emotions. But if you stand firm, if you remain calm when others would break, she will instinctively lean on you. Emotional control is rare today because most men think being loud, aggressive, or quick to defend their ego makes them strong. In reality, the one who controls his inner storm is far stronger than the one who tries to control others with shouting. Women admire men who can lead with logic, not with uncontrolled emotions. For example, imagine a couple arguing. Many men instantly defend themselves, raise their voices, or try to dominate. But a man with emotional control doesn't fight fire with fire. He listens, he acknowledges, and then he responds with clarity. That doesn't mean he becomes weak or submissive. No, it means he chooses not to let anger dictate his words. That balance of strength and composure communicates far more power than aggression ever could. Because at that moment, she realizes this man is not ruled by impulses. He chooses his reactions. He chooses his words. And that makes her feel he can handle life, handle relationships, and handle responsibilities. The beauty of emotional control is that it doesn't need to be announced. You don't need to tell anyone, I'm calm, I'm composed. It shows in your actions, in your silence, in the way you don't let every little thing disturb your peace. A woman may not openly say, I love that you are calm in chaos. She may even challenge you repeatedly to test if you are truly in control. But deep down, she respects it more than any material thing you can give her. when she sees you not reacting like every other man, not falling into emotional traps, but holding yourself with dignity and composure, she cannot help but admire you. Emotional control to a woman is the sign of a man who is strong enough to handle himself and therefore strong enough to handle life. One of the deepest desires a woman carries, even if she never speaks it out loud, is to feel safe with a man. Safety is not just about locking doors at night or walking her home when it's dark. It goes far beyond the physical. A woman feels safe when she knows that the man beside her will never let the world harm her unnecessarily, that he will stand in front when life gets harsh, that he will shield her not only with his strength, but also with his presence. Protection is one of those traits women crave silently because it touches something primal in them. From ancient times, men were the protectors of their tribe, their family, their woman. That natural instinct has not disappeared. A man who can protect without controlling, who can guard without suffocating, awakens a sense of admiration in a woman that no amount of material wealth can buy. But here lies the distinction that most men fail to understand. Protection is not the same as possession. Too many men confuse the two. They think being protective means constantly checking her phone, controlling who she talks to, deciding what she wears, or limiting her freedom. That is not protection. It is insecurity disguised as masculinity. Real protection gives a woman peace of mind, not fear of being controlled. When you truly protect, you allow her to move in the world with confidence, knowing that if anything threatens her, you will step in, not with jealousy or suspicion, but with power and assurance. Women secretly love when a man has that natural protective instinct, when his very presence creates a shield, but they also despise when that protection turns into obsession or control. Think about the difference. Imagine walking on a busy street together, a man who quietly shifts to the outer side of the pavement, putting himself between her and the traffic. That is subtle protection. He doesn't announce it, he doesn't boast, but she notices it. She feels cared for without being smothered. On the other hand, a man who constantly accuses, questions, and dictates in the name of protection is only revealing his insecurity. Women can sense the energy. One makes her feel cherished, the other makes her feel trapped. And even though she may never openly tell you, her heart craves the first kind of man, the one who protects her freedom while also protecting her safety. Protection also extends to emotional security. A woman feels truly safe when she knows her vulnerabilities won't be used against her. If she shares her secrets, her insecurities, her fears, she wants to know that this man will never throw them back in her face during an argument. She loves the man who protects her dignity, even when they are not on good terms. She may never admit it directly, but deep down, that emotional protection is far more powerful than physical protection. When she realizes she can cry in front of you, confess her doubts, or share her scars without fear of judgment, she feels shielded in a way that penetrates her soul. And let's not forget the protective energy that comes from leadership. A man who makes decisions with foresight, who doesn't expose his woman to unnecessary risks, who handles situations so she doesn't have to constantly worry. That man radiates true masculine protection. It is not about dominance. It is about responsibility. She may argue with you. She may resist you at times, but inside she appreciates when you take charge in a way that secures her well-being. Women admire a man who can calmly take control of a chaotic situation and create safety for both of them. She may never say, "I love that you protected me," but her respect for you grows every time you silently step into that role. Protection without possession is rare, but that is exactly why it is so magnetic. It demands balance. It requires a man to be strong enough to guard, yet wise enough not to cage. When a woman feels you can protect her without limiting her, she sees you as the kind of man she can trust deeply, the kind of man she can lean on in every storm. That trust doesn't come from force. It comes from the quiet assurance that you will always have her back without ever holding her hostage in the name of care. Confidence is one of the most magnetic qualities a man can carry, but what makes it truly irresistible is when it is paired with decency. Women admire confidence, they secretly crave it, but they despise arrogance. A man who walks into a room with presence, who doesn't have to announce his worth, but makes everyone feel it, catches a woman's attention instantly. But if that same man carries himself with pride that steps over into disrespect, his appeal evaporates. Women notice the difference between quiet self-assurance and loud arrogance. Confidence with decency is a balance. Being sure of yourself without stepping on others, being proud of who you are without humiliating those around you, standing tall without making everyone else feel small. That kind of confidence is rare, and that is why it holds so much power over women. A man with true confidence doesn't need validation every second. He doesn't beg for approval or constantly fish for compliments. His energy alone speaks. The way he stands, the way he communicates, the way he handles setbacks, it all reflects that he believes in himself without needing the world to clap for him. Women pay attention to those silent details. She may never tell you, but she notices the man who remains composed even when others doubt him. At the same time, his decency ensures that his confidence never turns into intimidation. He doesn't make others uncomfortable just to elevate himself. Instead, his presence creates comfort, security, and admiration. A woman is drawn to this because she wants to feel proud standing next to a man who has command over himself, not a man who constantly tries to command everyone else. Confidence with decency is also revealed in the way a man treats people around him. It is easy to be polite to someone you want to impress, but the real test of character is how you treat those who cannot give you anything. A woman silently watches how you interact with waiters, staff, or strangers. If you are arrogant with them, if you use your confidence to belittle others, she may never say it to your face, but inside her respect for you will die instantly. On the other hand, if you treat people with basic humanity while still holding your ground as a man, she admires you more than you realize. Because deep down, she knows that the man who is decent to the powerless will be a man who can also be decent to her when she is vulnerable. Confidence with decency also shows in conversations. Some men dominate discussions, always trying to be the loudest voice in the room. They think confidence is about proving they know everything, but a truly confident man listens more than he speaks. He doesn't feel threatened by others' opinions. He has the strength to let others shine without losing his own light. Women are drawn to that quality because it signals security. It tells her that this man doesn't need to prove himself at every step. He already knows his worth. And when he does speak, his words carry more weight because they are not fueled by insecurity, but by grounded conviction. This balance is also evident in the way a man carries himself in relationships. Some men mistake confidence for dominance, believing they must always control, always win arguments, always have the last word. But true confidence with decency allows a man to admit when he is wrong, to compromise without losing his masculinity, to respect boundaries without feeling weak. That level of maturity is what women secretly admire. They may not openly express it, but they crave a man who knows he is powerful, yet chooses to use that power responsibly. That quiet assurance mixed with respect creates a magnetic pull that women cannot resist, even if they never put it into words. A man with confidence and decency doesn't have to seek attention. Attention naturally seeks him. He doesn't have to prove his manhood by controlling others. He proves it by controlling himself. Women notice how he carries himself through wins and losses, through praise and criticism, through love and rejection. And when she sees that nothing shakes his belief in himself, yet that belief never turns into disrespect, she feels an attraction that goes beyond looks, beyond status, beyond wealth. There is a kind of strength that doesn't need to be announced, doesn't need to be shouted about, doesn't need to be decorated with noise. It is quiet, it is steady, it is present even when unspoken. That is silent strength. Women notice it more than men realize, because while loud strength may impress at first, it is silent strength that leaves a permanent mark on her heart. Silent strength is when a man faces the storms of life without collapsing into complaints, without broadcasting his pain to every corner, without making excuses. It is not about pretending to be invincible. It is about showing resilience without demanding applause for it. A woman may never openly admit how much she respects this trait, but deep inside she feels drawn to the man who carries his burdens without turning them into a weapon against others. Silent strength doesn't mean weakness. Too many confuse silence with submission, but silence in this context is discipline. It is the choice to remain composed instead of reacting emotionally to every challenge. It is the ability to stand tall in difficulty without making a show of suffering. Women observe this in the smallest moments. When life throws you setbacks, do you crumble and expect sympathy from everyone? Or do you collect yourself, keep moving forward, and only share your struggles when it is truly necessary? The man who lives with that quiet resilience radiates an energy that women instinctively trust, because they know that if he can handle his own storms without falling apart, he can also handle the storms that will inevitably come in a relationship, in a family, in a life built together. Another form of silent strength shows up in responsibility. A strong man doesn't have to remind everyone about the sacrifices he makes. He doesn't constantly repeat how much he does, how hard he works, how much he provides. He simply does it consistently and without needing applause. Women may not thank you every single day for it, but they notice. They notice the way you get up when you don't feel like it, the way you provide stability even when you are exhausted, the way you choose action over endless complaining. This kind of strength is silent, but it is powerful because it shows that you are dependable without being dramatic. It creates a deep-rooted sense of respect, even if she never puts it into words. Silent strength also appears in conflict. Many men think raising their voice makes them strong, that showing dominance through aggression proves masculinity. But the truth is the opposite. Any man can shout. Any man can break things. Any man can lose control. That is not strength. That is the absence of it. The man with silent strength doesn't need to intimidate with volume. He controls the energy of the room with his presence. He resolves conflict not by overpowering, but by outlasting, not by destroying, but by standing firm. Women admire this deeply, even if they act like they don't, because a man who doesn't lose himself in anger is a man she can feel safe with. He becomes a grounding force instead of another storm. And silent strength goes beyond facing challenges. It is also in the way a man controls his emotions for the sake of others. A father who shields his children from his stress. A husband who doesn't unload every frustration on his wife, but filters his words with patience. A leader who carries the weight of responsibility without turning bitter towards his people. This doesn't mean bottling everything inside until you break. It means having the emotional discipline to know when to express and when to endure. Women sense this balance. They feel the difference between a man who has mastered his emotions and a man who is mastered by them. And they cannot help but admire the one whose strength speaks through actions rather than endless declarations. Silent strength is not flashy. It doesn't attract instant attention. But over time, it builds a reputation that no noise can buy. A woman may not say, "I love how strong you are," quietly, but she feels it every time you show up steady instead of shaken, calm instead of chaotic, resilient instead of reckless. One of the most magnetic traits a man can carry is a clear sense of direction. Women are naturally drawn to men who know where they are going in life. It doesn't mean he must have everything figured out or already be at the top. But it does mean he has a vision, a purpose, a path he is walking with determination. A man who drifts aimlessly, who lives without goals, who has no clarity about what he wants, may be entertaining for a short while, but he never commands lasting respect. Women crave stability, and stability comes from a man who knows his own journey. When she sees that you have a sense of direction, that you wake up each day with a reason, a mission, and the discipline to pursue it, she feels that being with you is not a gamble. She feels she can trust you, not just in the present, but in the future you are building. A man with no direction becomes dependent on circumstances. He waits for opportunities instead of creating them. He reacts to life instead of leading it. That lack of clarity creates uncertainty, and uncertainty breeds insecurity. A woman may not say it directly, but deep inside she feels unsafe when she sees a man who doesn't know where his life is headed. Because if he cannot lead himself, how can he lead a relationship, a family, a household? On the other hand, a man with a clear sense of direction inspires confidence even before achieving the destination. His consistency, his planning, his refusal to settle for mediocrity shows her that he is not just existing, he is advancing. Women respect that deeply because it reflects strength of character. It signals that you are not waiting to be rescued, you are creating your own rescue. Sense of direction also reflects in the way a man makes decisions. A man without clarity hesitates endlessly, second guesses himself, and seeks approval for every step. A man with direction chooses his path with conviction. He may adjust along the way, he may correct himself when needed, but he doesn't collapse into confusion at every obstacle. Women admire this decisiveness. They notice when you can stand firm on your choices without being arrogant, and when you can move forward even if the road is not easy. That decisiveness creates security for her because it shows that you are not lost in life. You are moving somewhere meaningful. Direction is not about wealth alone. It is about vision. You can be a student, a worker, or just starting your journey and still be extremely attractive if you carry that inner compass. What matters is not your current status, but the energy of growth you carry. Women can sense when a man is building himself. They can feel when he has goals he is chasing and when he refuses to waste his life drifting. Even if he hasn't reached the top yet, his determination sets him apart because she sees that one day he will get there, and she admires the consistency it takes to keep moving forward. Another layer of sense of direction is the ability to align your words with your actions. Many men speak of big dreams, but very few follow through with the discipline to achieve them. Women notice this difference sharply. Talk without action is just noise. But when your actions back your vision, when your lifestyle reflects the goals you claim to have, it sends a powerful signal. She realizes this man is not a dreamer lost in fantasies, but a doer walking toward reality. That quiet determination, repeated day after day, becomes more attractive than any flashy display of wealth or charm. A man with a sense of direction naturally leads without needing to dominate. He sets the tone in his own life, and by doing so, he creates an environment of stability for those around him. Women feel that stability, even if they never say it out loud. They feel calmer in the presence of a man who knows his path because his clarity becomes contagious. His discipline reassures them that tomorrow is not something to fear, but something to build. And that sense of security is one of the deepest unspoken desires a woman carries. There is a rare and powerful quality in men that women secretly admire, though they rarely put it into words, and that is the ability to be both strong and gentle at the same time. Many men believe that masculinity is only about toughness, about showing no emotion, about being hard and unshakable in every moment. While strength is deeply attractive, what makes it even more magnetic is when that strength is balanced with gentleness. A man who can protect, who can lead, who can stand tall against challenges, but who also knows when to soften his tone, when to show care, when to extend kindness. That man leaves a lasting mark on a woman's heart. It is not weakness to be gentle, it is mastery, because gentleness without strength is fragility, but strength without gentleness is brutality. The true balance of masculinity is found when both qualities exist side by side. Gentle masculinity reveals itself in the smallest details. It is in the way a man lowers his voice instead of raising it during conflict. It is in the way he carries authority without intimidation, in the way he chooses patience over aggression when he easily could dominate. Women notice how you treat not only them, but also children, the elderly, even animals. When a man who is clearly strong and capable chooses to act with kindness, that contrast becomes deeply attractive. She may never say it openly, but she feels safe, respected, and cherished in that presence. A man who can bend without breaking, who can show care without losing authority, is a man who commands not just attention, but deep admiration. Another layer of gentle masculinity is emotional sensitivity without emotional weakness. A man with this trait can listen without dismissing. He can comfort without making it about himself. He can allow space for a woman to be vulnerable without mocking her for it. Too often men are taught to shut down emotion entirely, believing it makes them stronger. But women silently long for the man who is strong enough to feel without being consumed, who is gentle enough to understand without being fragile. This balance creates an atmosphere where she can be fully herself, where she doesn't have to hide her softness out of fear of rejection. Because when a man respects vulnerability in others, it shows he has already mastered his own. Gentle masculinity is also about restraint. The strongest men are those who could dominate but choose not to. They have the ability to assert force, but they hold it back because they value respect more than control. This kind of discipline is rare and magnetic. A woman feels it when a man argues with logic instead of aggression, when he carries himself with dignity instead of arrogance, when he uses his strength to protect instead of to oppress. He may not speak about it, but his actions reveal it. And women may never praise it openly, but they cherish it silently because they know this type of man is safe to be around, not safe because he is weak, but safe because he has chosen mastery over chaos. Even in love, gentle masculinity has a unique power. A man who can hold his partner with strength, but also with tenderness, creates a bond that words cannot fully capture. His presence feels like both a shield and a sanctuary. He doesn't overcompensate with aggression to prove his masculinity, nor does he abandon it to appear soft. Instead, he embraces the full spectrum, decisive when needed, soft when called for, unwavering in his principles, but flexible in his compassion. This duality is what women secretly dream of, though they may never voice it, because it is so rare to find in reality. Gentle masculinity, at its core, is the art of balance. It is strength tempered by kindness, authority softened by compassion, power shaped by restraint. Women may not articulate it, but they feel it deeply every time a man demonstrates it in his actions, in his presence, in the way he moves through the world with both force and grace. Men, understand this. Women may never openly admit the things they truly crave in a man, but their hearts always recognize them. It is not your looks, your money, or your possessions that leave the deepest impact. It is your character, your emotional control, your protective nature, your confidence with decency, your silent strength, your sense of direction, and your gentle masculinity. These are the traits that separate you from the crowd. These are the qualities that make a woman feel safe, respected, and deeply drawn to you without her ever needing to say it out loud. Build these traits not to impress anyone, but to master yourself. Because when you become that man, the right people will naturally gravitate toward you, and you won't need to chase love, respect, or validation. They will come to you on their own.